Have you ever felt that wall, that feeling when you're trying to learn something new, maybe a language, maybe another skill, and it just feels impossible. Like you're putting in the hours, maybe even the money, but you're just not getting there.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly common. All those promises, expensive courses, apps, and yet real fluency, real communication feels just out of reach.
Exactly. So what if there was a different way, a faster, really practical path to getting fluent without, breaking the bank or having to completely uproot your life? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a pretty amazing personal story. It's about a young guy named Jake. He managed to achieve English fluency, real fluency, in just 5 months.
5 months, it sounds incredible, doesn't it?
It really does. But here's the thing that makes this so interesting for everyone, not just language learners. This isn't just about English. Jake's journey is like a blueprint, a really systematic way of learning that, honestly, you could apply to almost any goal you have.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is to really unpack Jake's step-by-step method. We want to pull out the core ideas, the things that made him succeed so quickly. And maybe most importantly for you listening, understand the big mindset shifts he had to make. How did he turn this massive failure into such a huge win?
Yeah, we're digging for those actionable insights, the stuff you can actually use.
Exactly. We want to know. What can his rapid success teach us about learning effectively, maybe even faster than we thought possible?
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're talking about Jake. He's 26, living in Brazil, and he has this huge dream. He wants to be a software engineer, like top tier, working for a big tech company in the U.S.
The classic ambition for talented coder.
And he was talented, really good at coding. He put in the work day and night, just focused on getting better and better at his craft. And then finally it happened. He got a shot, applied to this huge U.S. tech company, and got the interview.
Wow, the dream is suddenly right there.
Totally. He could almost taste it. New country, big salary, working with the best. It felt real. But then, the interview itself, he remembers it so clearly. Opens up Zoom, and there they are, 3 interviewers, all native English speakers.
Okay, the pressure's on.
Instantly, he says it felt like someone had pressed fast forward on their voices. Just a blur of words. He couldn't understand a thing.
That sinking feeling. I think many people learning a language can relate to that moment.
Completely. He said panic just started creeping in. Cold dread. And then the first question seems simple enough. Jake, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in software development?
Standard opening.
Right. And he knew the answer. In Portuguese, he had it all mapped out, his projects, his skills, everything. But trying to say it in English?
Yeah.
Nothing. The connection between his brain and his mouth just broke.
Oh, man.
What came out was just halting, broken phrases. He said it was like, yes, I am software, I do coding, many projects. Good. I am very good.
Oof. Painful.
He said the silence after that felt like a knife in my stomach. They tried another question. He couldn't answer that either. Then just a polite smile. All right, Jay, thank you for your time.
Devastating. He knew right then.
Yeah, dream gone. Just like that. Slipped right through his fingers because of the language barrier.
And that's such a critical point. He failed, but not because he wasn't good enough at coding. He was excellent at coding.
Exactly.
He failed because he couldn't communicate his excellence. That moment for him wasn't just a job rejection. It was, well, almost existential. He suddenly understood the sheer power of English.
Right. It wasn't just a school subject anymore.
No. It was, as he put it, the key to my dream. And he realized, in that horrible moment, he didn't have the key. It was this huge wall blocking his path, and the emotional fallout, intense. He talked about feeling this wave of shame, then embarrassment, then just this deep, bitter anger at himself.
You can imagine all that hard work on coding.
Exactly. And for years, he'd told himself, I don't really need English. My skills will speak for themselves. He'd kind of bought into his own excuse.
We all do that sometimes, right? Avoid the hard thing.
Absolutely. But that interview just shattered the illusion. The truth hit him hard. Without English, I was invisible. His skills, his potential, none of it mattered if he couldn't communicate it.
Wow, that's a powerful realization. Invisible.
Yeah. But that failure, as awful as it felt then, it became the spark, the catalyst. It just stripped away all the excuses.
And that very night, he made a decision, a real commitment. He said, I would learn English and I would learn it fast.
That's the turning point. That fire wasn't just a vague wish. It came from deep disappointment, but also this new, sharp clarity. That's what drove everything that came next.
It really is a story of turning a setback into fuel. So as we dig into Jake's methods, maybe take a second and think, what's your key? What barrier, maybe it's a skill, maybe it's confidence, might be holding you back from something you really want? What makes you feel invisible sometimes? Okay, so before we get into the specifics of Jake's really unique methods, we need to understand why his previous attempts failed. Because he makes a really big point of saying, this time, he did not pay for expensive courses.
Right, and that's crucial. He wasn't avoiding them just to save money. He avoided them because, as he said flat out, they did not work. He'd already tried that route.
Been there, done that, didn't get the t-shirt.
Pretty much. He specifically talks about this expensive online English class he took about a year before the disastrous interview. And it sounds like the typical experience for so many people.
What did it involve?
Well, exactly what you'd expect. Memorizing long lists of vocabulary out of context, doing endless grammar exercises, focusing on abstract rules. He called them boring rules.
Sounds familiar. Lots of theory, maybe not much practice.
Precisely. It's that traditional textbook-driven approach. You learn about the language, but not necessarily how to use it. And the result, after 3 months of diligently following this expensive course, he still couldn't have a basic conversation. He couldn't connect the dots in real time.
Wow. 3 months of effort and still couldn't speak. That's discouraging.
Hugely. And that led him to this really key insight. Expensive classes were not the answer. They hadn't prepared him for real life, for actually talking to people. It was knowledge, sure, but it was inert. It wasn't functional.
So he knew he needed something totally different, not just another course, but a whole new system that worked in real life.
Yeah.
A practical approach that actually led to being able to speak.
Exactly. That realization shifted everything. It set him on the path to developing his own 5-month method, the one we're about to break down. It was about finding a way to bridge that gap between knowing stuff and actually doing stuff.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About your own experiences learning things. Have you ever tried a method that just felt like wasted time, even if you were trying hard?
Oh, definitely. We've all been there.
And why do you think Jake's focus on a real-life system resonates so much? People spend so much time and money on traditional learning. What's the disconnect?
I think it's because traditional methods often treat language like an academic subject, like history or biology. You memorize facts, you learn rules, but language isn't just knowledge, it's a skill.
Like playing guitar or riding a bike.
Exactly. You don't learn to ride a bike by reading a manual about physics. You learn by getting on the bike, probably falling off a few times, and practicing. Jake understood he needed to practice the act of speaking in context consistently. His real-life approach was about performance, not just theory, closing that knowing-doing gap.
Okay, so he wasn't just trying to learn. He was trying to hack the learning process itself. Let's get into it. Phase 1. He started by fixing the biggest mistake. What was that?
This is really interesting. He realized the biggest mistake most beginners make is thinking they just need more words. You know, if I learn 5,000 words, I'll be fluent.
Sounds logical, doesn't it? More words, better speaking.
It seems logical, but Jake realized it was flawed. He already knew hundreds, maybe thousands of English words from school and just being exposed to media. But he couldn't connect them. He couldn't make sentences flow.
Right, like having bricks but no mortar.
Exactly. So his first step was completely counterintuitive. For the first 15 days, 2 whole weeks, he decided he did not study any new words. 0.
Wow, okay. So what did he do?
He focused entirely on learning how to use the words I already knew. It was a radical shift from accumulating more stuff to activating what was already there. From passive knowledge to active skill. Think about it. He recognized he didn't need more building materials. He needed to learn how to actually build with the materials he had, how to connect them, structure them. This idea focusing on retrieval and activation is incredibly powerful for learning anything. Practicing pulling information out is way more effective than just cramming more in.
Makes sense. So how did he practice activating what he knew? What was method one?
Method 1 was brilliant in its simplicity. He called it the survival sentence list. He literally sat down and asked himself, what are the absolute bare minimum things I need to say to survive a basic everyday interaction?
Okay, like practical stuff.
Totally practical. He wrote down 50 simple sentences, things like, hi, how are you? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. I'm learning English. I need a coffee, please. Where's the bathroom? Thank you. Just the absolute essential.
Throwing building blocks.
Exactly. And then the practice was intense. Every single morning, he read those 50 sentences out loud, not just once, 10 times.
10 times out loud.
10 times out loud, actively speaking them, hearing them. And he said, honestly, at first my tongue felt slow, which is totally normal, right? You're training your mouth, your brain to make new sounds, new rhythms. It feels clumsy.
Like learning a new dance step.
Perfect analogy. But here's the key: consistency.
Yeah.
After just 5 days of doing this every morning, 10 times each, those 50 sentences became automatic. He didn't have to think about them anymore.
Wow. Just 5 days to automate the basics.
It shows the power of focused, high-repetition practice on a small, core set of existing knowledge. He was building muscle memory for his mouth and brain, turning conscious effort into subconscious reflex, like those musician scales you mentioned earlier.
Okay, so he's got these 50 core sentences down cold. What's next? Method 2 sounds intriguing. Speaking to self, the private classroom.
He called this one of the most powerful things he did. The idea was simple. Whenever he was alone, absolutely alone, he would just talk to himself in English, narrating his life out loud.
Like literally describing what he was doing.
Literally, he gave examples. In the shower, I am taking a shower. The water is hot. I feel relaxed. Making breakfast. I'm making eggs. I like eggs. They're easy to cook. I need the frying pan. Just constant internal or external monologue.
Okay, I can see how that might feel weird at first.
Oh, yeah, he admitted he felt stupid initially. It's a natural reaction, but he reframed it. He told himself, this is my private classroom. Nobody can hear me. Nobody can judge me. It was a completely safe space to experiment and practice without any pressure.
That reframing is key, taking the pressure off.
Absolutely. And the result? He said it was amazing. In just 1 week, my brain started thinking in English. That's huge. That means he was starting to bypass the translation step. Thoughts were forming directly in English.
Incredible, just from talking to himself.
Consistent, deliberate practice in a safe space.
All right, method 3 sounds different again. Copying sentences with emotion, speed, and pronunciation. What's this about?
This was his way of tackling pronunciation and sounding natural beyond just getting the words right. Every day, he picked 5 sentences, just 5, from things he heard native speakers say. Movies, YouTube, podcasts, whatever.
Okay.
But he didn't just read them. He focused on copying them exactly. He'd repeat each sentence 10 times, trying to match the native speaker's emotion, speed, and pronunciation.
So not just the words, but the music of the language.
Exactly. The intonation, the rhythm, the stress, the feeling behind the words. If a character in a movie said, I can't believe you did that, with a specific tone of surprise, Jake would practice saying it with that exact same tone and rhythm 10 times.
That sounds like advanced shadowing.
Pretty much. And he said this directly helped him fix my accent and sound natural. It's training your ear and your vocal cords to reproduce the authentic cadence of English, making you sound less robotic and much more like a native speaker. It's about prosody, the music of speech.
Okay, so after just 15 days of these 3 methods, survival sentences, talking to himself, and copying native speech, what was the result?
He said it was a fundamental shift. He'd stopped translating in his head, which is a massive milestone. He could say those basic sentences automatically. And crucially, he felt more confident.
That confidence piece seems so important.
Vital. It fueled him to keep going. This wasn't the end, obviously, but it was an incredibly strong foundation built in just 2 weeks.
It really makes you think, what knowledge do you already have in whatever you're trying to learn that you could practice more deeply? Activate it instead of just piling on new info? And how could you create your own private classroom, that safe space to practice without judgment? What would that look like for you?
That's the core question, isn't it? Refining the foundation is often more powerful than just building higher without securing the base.
Absolutely. Okay, so Jake built this solid foundation in 15 days. But he knew basic sentences and some confidence weren't enough for his big goal working in the U.S. He needed more. He called the next phase the real practice.
Yeah, he wanted to move beyond survival mode. He aimed for real conversations, being able to discuss complex ideas, and critically, to understand native speakers without translating in my head. He wanted genuine fluency.
So how did he get there? What was method 4?
Method 4 he called the question and answer method, and he described it as simple but powerful.
How'd it work?
He'd ask himself a simple, everyday question in English, out loud usually. Then he'd answer it immediately. But here's the twist. He wouldn't stop there. He forced himself to add more details, then more, expanding on his initial answer.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, he gave a great one. He'd ask himself, what did you do today? Initial answer, I worked. Then push. I worked on my project. Push again. I worked on my project for 3 hours. Keep going. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break. And maybe finish with, I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break and had some coffee.
Ah, so he's progressively building complexity in his own answers.
Exactly. He said, every time I answered, then I added more details. This trained my brain to think in English and speak without hesitation. It's like active recall plus progressive overload. You're not just finding words, you're constructing thoughts, linking ideas, building fluent pathways in your brain.
It forces you to use conjunctions, more descriptive words.
Precisely. Another example he used was, what did you eat for breakfast? Starting with, I ate eggs. Then expanding to, I ate eggs, toast, and a banana. Then adding why. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was really hungry and I love eating a big breakfast. See how it layers complexity?
Yeah, that's really clever. How often did he do this?
Every day, at least 30 minutes dedicated just to this question and answer expansion.
And the results?
Dramatic, he said. His speaking speed improved a lot. His sentences got longer, more natural. And that mental translation habit, it pretty much disappeared.
Okay, so speaking fluency is improving, but what about that nagging problem he mentioned, his accent? Sounding like a foreigner.
Right. That was still bothering him. He felt like even when he spoke well, the accent was a barrier. So he refined his earlier copying method into method 5. The echo technique for pronunciation breakthrough.
The echo technique. How is this different from the copying he did earlier?
It was more focused, more intense. He'd listen to a native speaker movie clip, podcast, YouTube, pause after each sentence, and then repeat it immediately, aiming for an exact replica. Same speed, same tone, same emotion, same rhythm. Really precise mimicry.
So taking a line like, I don't know what you're talking about, and mimicking it perfectly.
Exactly. Or a calmer sentence from a podcast like, it was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk. And matching that relaxed cadence perfectly. Pause, repeat, pause, repeat.
How long did he dedicate to this?
30 minutes every single day. Non-negotiable echo practice.
And did it work?
Amazingly well, according to him. He said, after 1 month, my pronunciation improved so much that even native speakers started saying, wow, your English sounds really natural.
That's huge, going from foreigner accent to sounds really natural in a month.
That's the power of focused, deliberate practice on pronunciation, on the actual sound of the language.
Okay, next challenge. Vocabulary. He knew memorizing lists was useless. So method 6, the story method for smart vocabulary expansion. What was his better method?
This was really smart. Instead of long lists, he chose just 5 new words each day. Manageable.
5 a day. Okay.
Then step 2. He immediately created a short story using all 5 words. This forced him to understand their meaning and how they fit together in context.
Makes sense. Learning in context.
Step 3. Read that story aloud 10 times, engaging the mouth and ear again. And step 4, the crucial part. Actively try to use those 5 new words in conversations or his internal monologue during the day.
Can you give an example of a story?
Sure. He used words like excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise. His story was something like, I was very excited because I received an invitation to a big party. When I arrived at the party, I got a huge surprise. It was for my birthday. Simple, memorable, uses all the words.
That's brilliant. Did it work for building vocabulary?
He said after just 3 months of this, he'd learned over 1,000 new words effectively without memorizing anything in the traditional, painful way, because he learned them in context, linked them together, and used them actively.
That's a much more organic way to learn words. Okay, method 7 tackles maybe the biggest monster for learners, training the brain to think in English and eliminating that constant translation. How did he do that?
This was multi-pronged. He knew that thinking in Portuguese first, then translating, made him slow and unnatural. So he actively worked to rewire his brain.
Oh.
3 main techniques. First, constantly describing his surroundings in English, often just in his head. Walking outside, sky is blue, weather's hot, people walking, man in red shirt, bus coming. Just non-stop internal narration in English.
Creating an English bubble in his mind.
Exactly. Second, constantly asking and answering his own questions in English. What am I doing now? Sitting, drinking coffee, writing. Am I hungry? No. What's next? Go for a walk. Keeping the internal dialogue going in English.
Reinforcing the habit.
And third, writing that daily journal in English every night. Starting simple, but forcing himself to express his day, his thoughts, his feelings directly in English. He said after about a month, the writing just started flowing more naturally.
And the result of all this mental training.
A breakthrough moment. He said, after a few weeks, I noticed something amazing. I was no longer translating. English words came naturally into my mind. He'd achieved that holy grail, thinking directly in the target language.
Wow. That must have felt liberating.
Absolutely. It underpins true fluency.
Okay, one more method in this phase. Method 8, the 2-hour daily speaking rule. Sounds straightforward, but tough.
Simple concept, huge commitment. Speak English for at least 2 hours every day. No excuses.
2 hours. How did he manage that if he didn't always have someone to talk to?
Great question.
Yeah.
He was creative. He continued talking to himself, narrating his life. He did his question and answer practice. But he also made a point of speaking English out loud while doing chores, cooking, cleaning, walking, describing actions, thinking through problems in English, even singing along loudly to English songs, focusing on the words.
Finding practice time everywhere.
Exactly. He turned his whole day into potential speaking practice. And his self-discipline here was key. He admitted, if I felt lazy, I reminded myself, English is my future. I cannot quit. That constant reinforcement of his goal, his why, kept him going. It wasn't about perfection. It was about consistent, active engagement every single day.
That commitment is just incredible. 2 hours a day, finding ways to do it no matter what. So thinking about these methods, Q&A expansion, echo technique, story vocabulary, thinking in English, the 2-hour rule. Which one of these resonates most with you? Which one could you maybe try even for 15, 20 minutes a day for just 1 week?
Yeah.
And see what happens. Remember Jake's emphasis. Consistency is everything.
It really is. Those small daily actions compound dramatically over time.
Okay, so Jake's built this amazing foundation. He's worked on fluency, naturalness, pronunciation, vocabulary, thinking in English. You'd think he'd be done, right? But there was another phase. He called it the final breakthrough. What was missing?
He realized that even with all that, something was still not quite right for true high-level fluency, especially for a professional environment. He felt he needed a better grasp of the underlying grammar and structure of English properly. Not just to be understood, but to sound truly natural and avoid subtle but potentially confusing misunderstandings.
So diving into grammar, but maybe not in the traditional way.
Exactly. No boring textbooks. His approach was, again, super practical and observational. He started paying close attention to how native speakers structured their sentences in real life. When he heard something, he'd ask himself, okay, why did they say it like that? What's the underlying pattern or rule here?
Learning grammar by reverse engineering real speech.
Precisely. He gave a great example. He kept hearing natives say things like, I have been learning English for 5 months, but in school, he'd learned I'm learning English for 5 months.
Subtle difference, but significant.
Huge. It made him realize the English we learn in school is often different from the English people actually speak. So he started actively investigating these differences. Why do natives use the present perfect continuous here? When is it actually used in real conversation?
So he became a language detective for real-world usage.
You could say that. He'd research these specific points, write down common, natural sentence structures he observed, and then consciously try to use those patterns himself in his speaking and writing, understanding the logic of spoken grammar, not just memorizing rules from a book.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay, what else in this final phase? He mentioned struggling with prepositions.
Yeah, surprisingly, even at this advanced stage, prepositions were one of his biggest challenges. You know, the classic on the bus, but in the car, at night, but in the morning. They can seem illogical.
They drive learners crazy.
Totally. So his method was systematic again. He kept a small notebook just for confusing prepositions. He'd write the preposition down with several examples of how he heard it used. If he was unsure, he'd look it up online. Or, more importantly, pay super close attention to how natives used it in context. Active problem solving for those tricky little words.
Building his own internal usage guide based on real data. Smart. What about his writing? Did that evolve too?
It did. His daily diary, which started with simple sentences like went to work, was tired, ate pizza, became a tool for improving his writing style. He wasn't just recording facts anymore. He wanted to write more like a native speaker.
How did he work on style?
By reading actively and analytically. He read blogs, books, news articles, paying attention to sentence structure, phrasing, tone. Then he'd consciously try to copy that style in my diary, experimenting with more complex sentences, better transitions, richer vocabulary, trying to emulate the flow he saw in native writing.
Moving from functional writing to more sophisticated expression.
Exactly, developing his written voice.
And shadowing. Did that continue to play a role?
Yes, but it became even more refined, an accelerator. He called it refined shadowing. He'd find videos, put on headphones, and repeat every word immediately after the speaker, matching speed and pronunciation precisely, like being their shadow vocally.
Even more intense than the echo technique.
Seemed like it. More continuous. At least 20 minutes a day dedicated to this intense mimicry. He said it dramatically improved his pronunciation subtleties in just weeks, really embedding those native patterns.
He'd also mentioned using movies differently. Active movie watching.
Yeah, another clever twist on a common activity. Watching English movies with English subtitles, but pausing after every single sentence and repeating it aloud, focusing consciously on the pronunciation, tone, and rhythm.
Wow, that would make watching a movie take forever.
It probably would, but it turned passive viewing into incredibly active, focused practice. Breaking down natural speech into tiny, manageable chunks to analyze and mimic. He said, slowly, my English started sounding more natural doing this.
Okay, so refining structure, tackling prepositions, improving writing style, intense shadowing, active movie watching. Anything else in this final push?
Yes, and this might be the most profound realization of all. The crucial role of confidence. He realized English is not just about words and grammar, it's also about confidence.
How so?
He saw that many people actually know a lot of English, but they're simply too scared to speak. That fear of mistakes, fear of judgment, is often the biggest wall, bigger than any lack of knowledge.
That fear is paralyzing for so many.
Totally. So Jake made a conscious, deliberate decision. I would not be afraid of making mistakes. He embraced imperfection as part of the process. He actively forced himself to speak in real situations, shops, work, with friends, even when he wasn't sure, even when he knew he might mess up.
That takes real courage.
It does. And the result was empowering. People understood him, even with mistakes, and crucially, they didn't laugh at me. That positive feedback loop, trying, being understood, feeling accepted, built his confidence like nothing else. It created this upward spiral.
Breaking the fear barrier was key.
Absolutely essential. But he still had one final fear to conquer.
What was that?
His biggest fear, actually talking to native speakers, especially in unplanned situations. The fear they wouldn't understand him or that he'd just freeze up completely.
The ultimate test.
Right. So he prepared strategically. He didn't just wing it. He prepared 10 common conversation topics like asking about someone's day, work, food, hobbies, weekend plans, and practiced answering questions about them fluently beforehand. He wanted some ready-to-go responses.
Building a safety net.
Exactly. Then he took the leap. He joined an online group where people from different countries met specifically to practice English.
How did that go?
It was a game changer. He was nervous at first, naturally, but he quickly realized everyone was there to learn just like me. Nobody was judging. That supportive environment made it much easier to relax and just talk.
Shared vulnerability.
Totally. He ended up not just practicing English, but making real friends. It made the whole learning process fun, social, and rewarding, not just a chore.
That's fantastic. Turning the final hurdle into a positive experience. So, looking at this final phase, tackling grammar naturally, conquering prepositions, refining writing, intense shadowing, active movie watching, and deliberately building confidence and facing fear. It makes you wonder, how much does confidence impact your ability to use what you know in any area? And how could you maybe prepare strategically, like Jake did, to face a learning fear that's holding you back?
It's a huge factor. Fear can keep so much potential locked away. Jake showed that tackling the psychology of learning is just as important as tackling the content itself.
Okay, we follow Jake's whole arc. The crushing failure, the decision, the intense phases of learning and refining. Now we get to the payoff, the climax of the story.
Yeah, this is where it all comes together. He described this moment looking in the mirror, talking to himself like he'd done so many times. But this time was different. He felt it. I wasn't hesitating. I wasn't translating. The words were flowing naturally.
He knew he'd arrived.
He knew. It wasn't sudden magic. It was the result of all that relentless effort finally clicking into place. And that same day, he decided, okay, time for the real test. He joined an online meeting, planning to have a deep conversation with a native speaker. He told himself, I've worked too hard to doubt myself now.
The moment of truth.
And he started talking. The words came out clearly, confidently, he said. He wasn't searching for them. They were just there. He understood everything being said, no mental gymnastics. People listened, nodded, asked him questions, engaged with his ideas.
Wow.
He said it was just this incredible moment. He knew deep down he'd done it. He'd achieved real fluency. The language wasn't a barrier anymore. It was part of him.
So what happened next? The job.
5 months. Just 5 months after starting this whole intense process, he applied again. Same dream job, same company.
Gutsy.
Totally. But this time, a completely different Jake walked into that interview. Confident, composed. He wasn't afraid of English. He owned it. He nailed every question, technical and personal, articulate, assured.
And the interviewers.
They were impressed, not just by his English, but by the transformation, the grit, the persistence it represented. They saw the whole story and how he presented himself. He got the job, the dream job, starting salary, $5,000 a month. Life-changing.
Unbelievable. From total failure to dream job in 5 months.
Incredible story. He said he was shaking, holding the phone, eyes filling with tears. And the first people he called were his parents.
Oh, wait, that must have been emotional.
Hugely. His mom cried with joy. His dad, usually stoic, just said, "We always knew you could." That validation, he said, meant everything. It wasn't just his victory.
He did it for them, too.
Yeah. And with his first paycheck, he bought his dad that watch he'd always wanted but never bought, and his mom a gold necklace. Tokens of gratitude for their belief and sacrifice.
That's really touching, giving back.
He said handing them those gifts, seeing their reaction, that's when the full weight of it hit him. Beyond the job, beyond the money, he just thought it was all worth it.
Every struggle, every late night.
Every single moment of frustration, every time he wanted to quit, it all led to that. Worth it.
What an amazing full circle story. Success that's not just personal, but ripples out to the people you love. So after all that, Jake really reflected and boiled down his experience into some key lessons. Things he felt were the absolute most important things I learned. And he presented them as universal principles, stuff anyone can use.
Yeah, and the first one, he was adamant about this. Mindset is everything. He truly believed most people failed because they believe they can't. He admitted he used to think that way too.
Self-limiting belief trap.
Exactly. But he consciously changed his internal script from I am bad at English to English is not difficult. I can learn it just like any other skill. And crucially adding, I am improving every day. That growth mindset was the foundation.
It's so true for anything, isn't it? If you think you can't, you probably won't even try properly. If you believe you can, you find a way.
Absolutely. Mindset first. His second lesson. Surround yourself with English or whatever it is you're learning. Immerse yourself.
How did he do that?
He made English unavoidable. Changed his phone language, watched only English movies and shows, listened only to English music, followed English speakers online. He was constantly feeding my brain with English, creating his own immersion environment.
And not just passive immersion.
Right. He added the active part, constantly speaking and thinking in English, naming objects around him. That's a blue car, it's moving fast, keeping the language active in his mind and mouth all day. Third lesson, speaking without fear. This was huge for him. He had to get over the terror of making mistakes. He realized mistakes are just part of learning.
And the native speakers don't actually care.
Exactly. He learned they usually appreciate the effort. So he forced himself to speak to shopkeepers, strangers, himself, his conclusion. The more I spoke, the better I became. Simple, but powerful, learn by doing. Fourth, active listening and shadowing. Listening wasn't passive for him, it was active training for his ears. Podcasts, audiobooks, conversations really focusing. And then the shadowing repeating immediately, mimicking pronunciation and rhythm.
That combination of deep listening and active mimicry was key for his accent and fluency.
Absolutely. Fifth lesson, expanding vocabulary smartly. No more useless lists. Learn words in context. Focus on phrases, not single words, like learning I feel so happy today, not just happy, made it much easier to remember and use naturally. Sixth, grammar without books. He didn't bury himself in grammar rules. He learned grammar organically by listening, speaking, noticing patterns, and correcting mistakes in context, like figuring out he goes instead of he goes through usage, not memorization.
His insight. The best way to learn grammar is by using the language, not memorizing rules.
Yeah.
Learn it functionally.
Precisely. And the final lesson, number 7, maybe the most crucial, consistency over perfection. Don't wait until you think you're perfect to start speaking or doing. Jake started speaking from day one, even with limited vocabulary.
He just kept showing up.
Every single day, his rule. Every day I will do something in English, even if it was just 10 minutes, even on lazy days. The key was consistency. That relentless daily action is what builds momentum and leads to breakthroughs.
So Jake's final message really sums it up. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need a perfect environment. You just need a strong desire and a commitment to practice every day.
Yeah.
It's just such a powerful story, a real demonstration of how targeted, consistent effort plus that crucial mindset shift can lead to truly incredible results and fast.
Absolutely. And what strikes me is these aren't just language tips, are they? They're principles for mastering any skill. Coding, music, writing, sports, whatever it is.
That's a great point.
Jake's journey really highlights that timeless idea. The discipline required might feel tough in the moment, it's temporary discomfort, but the regret of not trying, of wondering what if, that lasts a lot longer. He chose the short-term effort for the long-term reward.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, just take a moment. Picture yourself, say, 6 months from now. What could open up for you? What skill could you genuinely master if you applied Jay's level of commitment, his consistency, and some of these practical steps to your own learning?
It really comes down to a choice, doesn't it? Choose the discipline, choose the growth, choose to pursue that success. Your journey, like Jake's, can start right now.